4:01. So we're calling the meeting to order of the Historic Preservation Commission. I want to thank, see a lot of staff. I know there's presentations, Levi, Fernanda, Matthew's probably going to do the presentation, and Spencer. And I can't read, Christy, thank you. Spencer, can you help us with the roll call?
Yes, of course. Commissioner Collum? Commissioner O'Neill?
Here.
Vice Chair Barlow?
Here.
Chair Rodriguez?
Here.
Commissioner Rath?
Here.
Commissioner Pizell?
Here.
And Commissioner Smith-Crivello?
Here.
That is all our commissioners present. Staff, as you mentioned, present are Planning Manager Hill, Principal Planner Sabdo, Principal Planner Roveri, Senior Associate Planner Buggert, and myself, Recording Secretary Argenbright. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at monterey.gov/agendas. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to open it up for the public comment on the consent agenda. I don't see anybody present in chambers, but I'll ask you, Spencer, if there's anybody online.
See, there are currently no attendees online.
All right. Okay, so do we have, I assume the commission had a chance to look at the minutes. We're going to approve the minutes or look at the minutes for August 11th, the field trip, and October 9th. Any motion to approve the minutes? Any comments?
I was just going to note, if we need to take separate votes on those minutes
Separately? Okay.
if we need to, I mean, it's, I think all the members of the commission that were at the field trip are present today.
Okay.
So we have enough. If the rest of the commission wants to abstain from that vote, they can. And then.
All right. I'll take first the August 11th, 2025 field trip minutes. I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there, but I'll entertain a motion to approve it or just a motion. All right. We have a motion. Any comments?
I just have one. On number 4, public appearance from August 14th, I see you confirm annual appointments for chair and vice chair, and I put add names.
Your mic on,
Can
Kathy.
we do that?
Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. So number 4, August 14th, why did I put add names
Yes.
for the chair and vice chair? Was that corrected?
Yeah, the minutes were approved with amendments to note the actual
Agreed.
commissioners that were named to chair and vice chair, and that was done.
Yes, I thought we discussed that. Great. Thank you.
Sure. So I believe we have a motion on the table for the field trip minutes from Commissioner Smith-Crivello. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
And I'm going to abstain.
Me too. So 2 abstentions, 3 abstentions. Commissioner Pitts? No. Okay, thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to, that motion passes. We're going to move to the October 9th minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Any comments regarding those minutes? Not, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We'll have a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention. Thank you. All right, we're going to end the consent agenda. I'm going to call for general public comments on items not in the agenda. I don't see anybody in chambers. Has anybody joined, Spencer, by any chance?
There are still no attendees online. I will just remind the public that once again, information on how to participate remotely by Zoom or telephone is found at monterey.gov/agendas. If you are joining by telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. There are still no attendees online.
Thank you. And I don't see anybody in chambers either. So now we're going to move to item number 4, which will be to receive a Mills Act inspections informational report by Matthew.
Yes, I will share my screen.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Buggart, and I'm a Senior Associate Planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division. Today, we're here to talk about the Mills Act inspections that took place for the 2025 Annual Inspection Report Cycle at today's HPC meeting. The overall purpose of this meeting is to provide a brief overview of the Mills Act program, a summary of Mills Act property in the city, contract inspection updates, and anticipated next steps. Some overall background: the first contract in the city of Monterey was in the year 2000, and the Mills Act contract is intended to be mutually beneficial between the property owner and the city themselves. The property owner benefits from a reduction in property taxes intended to offset maintenance costs, and the city is ensured the preservation of historic buildings along with the adopted preservation report for the property. The overall number of Mills Act properties at this point is 65 properties. In 2023, we had 4 new ones. There were none in 2024, and this year we've adopted 1 more. As mentioned in the previous slide, there were none recorded in 2024. 817 Martin Street went through the contracting process for this year. So this is not included in the inspections. They just contracted. To enter into a Mills Act contract, the property must meet the eligibility requirements for H1 or H2 overlay zoning that is locally significant or statewide significant, sometimes national, but mostly local and state. And as a note, not all H1 or H2 properties in the city are also in a Mills Act contract with the city. The property needs to be identified by a qualified architectural historian as significant, and the contract must be found to offset the costs of maintaining the resource. A maintenance schedule is included in each of these approvals. They varied over time. These days, the maintenance schedules mostly look like this, where there is a general item that they need to maintain, how often they need to maintain it, and then an estimated cost, at least in the contract year. It's definitely changed over time. Cancellation of a Mills Act contract may happen if the owner has breached the contract or has allowed the property to deteriorate to a point that it's no longer meeting historic property standards, or that the property owner failed to restore or rehabilitate the property. Often that's included during the initial approval. Like, yes, this is historic as long as you've done A, B, C, and D to restore it. The cancellation fee is 12.5% of the current property value, and there are exceptions for buildings destroyed by natural disasters. Last year, we did a bit of a trial run for outreach and sent out postcards to all the properties. This year, we implemented it for all the properties and sent out this little mailer with a QR code and a small web address to schedule the inspection. And we also updated a little bit to gather a little more information in the form of getting everybody's emails and phone numbers for people that entered into the contract. Something that we found from previous ones is there may be a new owner, and trying to get a hold of the new owner was pretty difficult in some cases. And this lined up with staff schedules. So just slotted into an open space on the calendar, and then the planner could go out and check out the property. For the outreach, the first round was that mailer. 52 properties were inspected through the end of September. Probably about 40 of them were done through that online scheduler, and the remaining 12-ish were done via either people reaching out via email or phone number. So though we were trying to get everybody's contact information, it did not happen 100% across the board. For round 2, that was those properties that we didn't get by the end of September. Emails and phone calls were made on October 14th to 19th to known numbers, and 6 additional properties were inspected through the end of October. For this cycle, there were 6 properties marked as no inspect. They either didn't respond to the past 2 cycles. A couple didn't respond to this one, and one property has since reached out for inspection that we will include in the next cycle. In general, there are outstanding unfinished tasks at a variety of properties. The attachment number 1 to the agenda report includes a big table of the properties and outstanding things that they need to do. Some of them include changing out aluminum windows to wooden windows. That was included as an original thing that they needed to do, and it has still not happened. Some other items are failing retaining walls, leaning walls. There are some pieces of trim that fell off of one property, like trim along the front entry porch. Whether they say it fell off, it's not there. It needs to be put on, and we're hoping that that will happen by the next inspection cycle. And then a semi-common one is updating knob and tube electrical systems to safer ones up to modern code. There are, I think, 2 properties still that have it included in their restoration activities that they need to do that they have still not done. We are exploring ways in which to encourage and or enforce that. Yeah. And outside of those more structural pieces, the most popular item still left unfinished remains the historic plaque. There's a historic plaque that each of these property owners need to put at the front of the property. Since the vast majority of these properties have been inspected in the past, they're aware that this is outstanding. And in this year, there are 3 properties that applied for and were approved for their plaque text. There's a standard format that we have for people, and we take whatever information they provide, compare it to their historic documents, and at least make sure the information's accurate and reflects the adopted format. And there's one additional property that's reached out for additional information, not yet applied for the plaque text. There's 4. Some success stories. The last time we went through the inspections, this property, 848 Via Murata, had one little aluminum window in the back, and through a historic permit, when we came out for the inspection this year, it was nice to see that it had been installed with the historic appropriate window there. Another piece that you guys may be familiar with, last year we noted that there would be an upcoming project at 417 Alvarado Street, and they have applied for removing the cap through historic permit. This isn't necessarily restorative work that was required in their maintenance schedule, but it's an example of the continued improvements that property owners are trying to do through the historic permit process. Next steps is to complete next year's annual inspections for 2026 and prepare a follow-up inspection report for the end of 2026. I think the overall takeaways from this program is that we kind of spent the past 3 years reestablishing the relationship between the city and the property owners, because there was probably about a 10-year gap there that we hadn't been going out regularly. And so working out enforcement techniques, reminders. I think when you've been out twice and you're noting, hey, this still isn't done, it may be a minor thing, but just trying to work on getting things done. That concludes staff's presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, I am here.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to open it up for questions. And I think we have a question right here.
Well, really, Matthew, it's just been wonderful to have these reports. And I suppose everybody on the team is, supportive of it, Levi and all of you, because for many years, it was one of those things we knew we needed to have and we didn't have. So I think it's been just great the last 2 years to actually get these reports. So I want to Thank you for your work and congratulate the whole department for getting this big job done. I really appreciate it. I went to a meeting, just, homeowner, they were concerned about, they were gathering other people who had Mills Act together in the neighborhood and just trying to see what the questions they would have might be. And, just telling them that the program isn't necessarily secure all the time. People can talk about it, city council. And so they had just a neighborhood concern meeting. And at the meeting, I acknowledged my role on our committee, the HBC, but I'm just wondering, in your contact with people, did you find some were unaware of their responsibilities? They just seemed to be a little bit confused, that they really had a responsibility to continue to follow up on the schedule and make those improvements. Did you find that there were people that just didn't understand it?
Yes.
Okay.
There are two properties in particular I can think of. I'm not going to name names, but who had purchased the property, didn't know what the Mills Act was, didn't know about the contract, didn't know that they were tied to it. One property in particular, there's a divorce. One of the partners kept the house, had not been
In the loop.
aware in the loop on the things on the property. And whether that's the case or not, they're still required to do what's on the contract because it runs with the land. I will say that's one of the problem properties per se. And I think on the next cycle or two, some harder pressure from the city may be needed to get some of the improvements done. I
But
yes,
the
there have been
meeting
a
that
few.
there was a mixed understanding of it. Some people really felt they were kind of knew about it, and other people seemed unsure about some of the points. And I'm wondering, maybe we should consider at least having information about your Mills Act property. Just to review. This is what not but for them particularly about their home, but in general. Here we are, the city presenting an informational meeting. These are the facts, kind of a meeting, and maybe other people that are interested could go, but just for the everyone to have a chance to ask questions. The fact that there was a meeting at a private home and there was a need for information made me think maybe that might be an idea we could provide for them so that we could give them the accurate information. They wouldn't be hearing from one another. They would be hearing, there would be a chance to hear from the city in terms of, the information.
Absolutely. I mean, to date, it's been essentially one planner going out, talking with them about their Mills Act contract, doing a lap around the property to inspect each of the items. We haven't to date done a broad informational outreach meeting to everyone, and this is probably the closest that we've had to Mills Act updates annually.
Well, we don't see a large group of people here with burning questions. But at the meeting, there were quite a few questions, and I didn't come with information for them, and that wasn't my role at the meeting anyway. I was just in that community, and I happened to be invited. So I think with, maybe next year, consider in your letter that goes out, we didn't get a copy of that letter, but just say, for any of you who are interested, we're planning to have a meeting at the state just for general information and see what happens. Either people will come and benefit from the information, or you'll know that most people have what they need and you can go on. But the fact that there was such a meeting made me think maybe there is a need to get information out from the city so that it is information that is the same. They don't hear from other people, they hear it from you.
I think,
No, we appreciate
Yes.
that. And I
Uh,
would just, on that note, I was just going to say, if obviously anyone that has questions about their Mills Act property or the potential of getting in the Mills Act program, we definitely encourage, you feel free to send them to the planning office. We're happy to
Okay.
answer any questions. Also, these meetings are recorded, so if they don't want to listen to me or one of the other planners drone on about it, they're happy. And Matthew did a great overview of the program itself today, so they're happy to access this online as well. If that's a preferable method, but so next time you're at one of those meetings, feel free to send them our way if you want.
I was just going to ask Matthew, is the owner usually present when you do the inspection? Because that could be a time, obviously, I'm sure you do reviews then.
Every inspection that is done with the property owner or a representative
Okay.
there. I think there's been one case this year of something came up for them via phone, said it was okay for me to go on the property. And we just talked over the phone about it, but I also met with them previously and
Oh.
it's a pretty straightforward
Well, that's good.
place. But no, every time we speak in person, I have the full contract of theirs printed out before I go.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've been to at least one of the commissioners'
Mm.
places and familiar with the clipboard.
Great. Yeah, that personal
I
contact
can
is
chime
very
in.
important.
It's very professional.
Not scary, huh?
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Geraldine was saying about, this is great that the city's going back and doing inspections and also with the postcard, the scanning, I think the efficiencies in that are great, taking a lot less staff time and hours. So I was really pleased to see that, you said 40 of them were responded that way.
42 was
That's
the
a
number.
lot.
It
I mean,
was huge.
that's great. I was glad to hear that. And I think, we even on the postcard that's sent, you could put anything about, we'll have a meeting about this. It'll educate the people going through the process about, what the next steps are. I think I mentioned this last time, but I think also will help the commissioners if maybe we could start thinking about having some more uniformity on the maintenance plans. I mean, I see stuff from 5 years to 25 years on here. And I think it's hard we're making decisions that are going to have financial, implications for the city. And there should be some fairness and uniformity in that. And then I also think that, personally, you can't, guarantee you're going to follow every year with the inspection, what you think you're going to do when you enter through the Mills Act. And maybe there should be some sort of process or something that we could document when there are modifications to that maintenance plan. I think the homeowners would benefit to have record of that. I know, Matthew, we discussed, for my own property, stuff that kind of shifted because, we had some issues that came up first rather than what we originally planned for, and something that could just be documented and put into the record. I think that would be good for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And last year, so this is the third major round that we've done of this. And I do believe that each time it's gotten better where we're identifying more issues and ways to deal with it. The first time that we did it, we went checkmark by checkmark everybody's maintenance lists top to bottom. And we'd done it for the first 10-ish. And after 5 or 10, you can already see some of them just have 3 line items with a couple numbers, no years attached to it, no anything. It's just saying landscape, roof, and general maintenance or something like that. And then you look at the people that did it in 2019, 2022, we have Excel spreadsheets that are reflective of what was in this PowerPoint presentation. And so that first year we did the check marks for everything. And then year 2, we really started to focus on what is required for restoration or needing it to be historic. And then who is just maintaining now? You've done the restoration work and now you're just maintaining. So we're still doing that. That seems to be a nice way to catch the, maybe they needed to update siding from metal to wood and they never did that. So we reach out to them. This has to be done. There are still a number of properties that have restorative work to do, or just the plaque. You got to put the plaque on, then you're maintaining, but you still have something you have to do.
Mhm.
This year, we took that same idea and then I personally did a bit of a trial run. I had 5 questions that I asked everybody. Have there been any issues with the roof? Any issues with termites or beetles? Any plumbing issues, flooding, electrical, and then other. It was just kind of a general home maintenance, try and get solicit some information from people. That's, I think, what would be nice moving forward as a staff planner, is since it takes the approval of HPC, Planning Commission, and City Council to adopt some of these contracts and get them recorded with the county. Now that they're recorded with the county, technically that is what their contract is. They are tied to the things that are in there. And if they said they were going to update, replace their driveway in 15 years, and 20 years goes by and the driveway is perfectly fine, why would we force somebody to replace the driveway for no good reason? So it's an unfolding conversation that we're trying to figure out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think as the commission's aware, in 2024, the city council kind of put a pause on the Mills Act program to kind of evaluate what the impacts were fiscally to the city's budget as far as the tax savings associated with the Mills Act program and the loss of revenue associated with that. And we had a economic fiscal analysis completed, and that was intended to be brought forward to the commission and then to council for to consideration of program changes to the Mills Act program. That's still very much in the plan to come before the commission. I think if you've been following the budget discussion with city council this year, acknowledging the deficit that's in the city budget, one of the items that got brought up during that discussion was whether or not they wanted to eliminate the Mills Act program in the interest of, picking that revenue back up. That was not supported by the council, so that's not really on the table any longer. And so where that leaves us is, I think, as staff, as Matthew kind of alluded to and Commissioner Barlow alluded to a minute ago, there's not really a lot of guardrails on the program as it exists today, and there's not a lot of guidance on how the program's to be implemented. I think it's from the year 2000, I believe. So we're 25 years into this program, and it's probably time to reevaluate the structure of the program and let the commission, to your point, put some more consistency guardrails on, and really start looking at what the program's intentions are. If it's for restoration, if it's for maintenance of historic characteristics on historic properties, then the maintenance plan should probably be tied more directly to those types of items. And then, I think if so what our plan is to bring forward some program changes to the commission, get your thoughts and consideration, hopefully a recommendation at some point on that to go forward to council. Another item worth noting is the Mills Act program was adopted by a resolution in the year 2000. It's not codified. It doesn't exist in our ordinance really, other than a reference to a historical incentive like the Mills Act program. So there's not a lot of codified regulations for the Mills Act program locally. So that's something we're really wanting to come in and kind of codify the program, make it a little bit more structured, a little bit more, consistent across the board for all property owners, and really tie it back to the intent of the Mills Act program, which is to offset the cost associated with owning and maintaining a historic property. So we think that those changes will probably come forward to the commission in the early stages of 2026 and hopefully get adopted and codified by council in the same year.
I for one, and I'm sure a lot of us, I'm open to, I know you all are the experts on it, but on a working session, I know we usually meet 1 hour, but I'm open if we have to do a special meeting. And
I know certainly involve, obviously we want that to be a public process that involves our current Mills Act contract property owners. I think it will impact them. Some of the changes that, I mean, it's kind of an open book as far as the changes to be considered right now. As Matthew mentioned, the way the program's structured, the contracts are for 10 years to auto renew, and they run with the land. That can all be changed and restructured in future contracts, and the program can be restructured to where those existing contracts are required to be re-recorded with new parameters. So there's kind of a lot of options there. So we definitely want to involve the commission in those conversations as well as the public, because I think it is worth looking at. Now that we're 25 years in this program, I think we've learned a lot of lessons, and I think there's a lot of ways that this could be updated.
Yeah, and I think as a city, we need to be careful to not disincentivize people too much, but at the same time, I agree with you and I mean the conversations we had. There's a responsibility to maintain your property at least, if not to upgrade. Or okay, I understand economic times are tough, but at least maintain it. You can't be a freeloader. You can't receive fire, police, roads, schools for nothing. I'm glad to hear. I'm sorry. I already assumed that anybody have any, you have?
Go ahead. I'll wait.
You're
on a roll.
I'm on a thing. I want to say I'm glad that the council decided that way because two things, and don't ask me to quote you the study, but if a property is under the Mills Act in a block, say, other properties benefit from the increased value of that property. Everybody, right? All boats rise, or whatever the saying is. The other thing is, understandably, I also work for a local agency. $10 million, I think, is the okay. And this is going to sound maybe callous or naive, but not everything is about money. We also have a nice feeling walking down the street and looking at a nice building. It just beautifies the area. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm grateful that the council didn't scrap it. I was going to ask, but I forgot. I was going to ask why the properties leveled off in 2024, but you answered. I'm going to ask it. I know this is not the time, probably 25 and 26, budget year 25, 26 is probably not the time, but have you considered, or let me ask you this way, how do people find out about the Mills Act? Is it just when your realtor tells you? Say if I don't live in a historic property, unfortunately, but if I wanted to be on it and I wasn't in this commission, how would I find out?
Yeah, so we obviously have a lot of information in the planning office that we make available to the public. It's on our website. There's a lot of information there. If I had to guess, I think for the most part, for people who are purchasing properties that would maybe be interested, probably from the real estate professional. I think it's takes a very special type of person to even be interested in buying a historic property when they're shopping for properties. And I'm sure it's something that gets brought up during that process with the real estate professional about some of the incentives that may offset some of the costs. I think most of our real estate professionals are quite familiar with the program and advertise it as such. There are two additional things that I've heard frequently, which is people who have owned historic properties in other jurisdictions, and then they move here and they still either want to own a historic home or some of the financial benefits that can be involved there. And then the second one being they heard about it organically, either from neighbors or whatever it happens to be. I probably talk to myself one person every week or two who's asking, hey, I heard about the Mills Act program. Is there any way my home could be historic? Especially since when people go through architectural review, we're often noting, hey, your home is potentially historic, or it's greater than 50 years, so you need to have an architectural historian be involved. And then that usually ends up with some more questions as to, oh, so my home's historic?
What can I?
Not quite, yeah.
All right. So I was just going to mention, I understand 25, 26 might not be the year, but identify, I can see a lot of properties out there. And by the way, thank you for the report. I saw an Art Deco house that looks very simple to almost everybody. I love that house. And I just remember, it's by my house. And I just remembered it's a protected property. So that's on Spencer. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
25 Spencer.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I love that house. And I walk my dogs there on purpose sometimes to just see the house. But maybe in the future to consider if we identify as staff or as commissioners a house that we like. I don't know if there's a little thing we can drop in their mailbox that says, hey, have you considered doing this? I don't know if it's allowed to be soliciting for people. But I mean, I see so many properties out there that have some historical value, I think, right? Because I'm not Meg doing the study, but that could be some way to incentivize also the program. But you had a question. Thank you for entertaining my.
To stop you. And I think Matthew answered one of my questions, which was if you're in your contract, you're going to paint every 6 years, but it doesn't need painting. And it's 10 year, are you in default? So that's to be determined. What?
So technically they are in default. If you do not do what is in the contract, you are vulnerable. As to the enforcement of it, when it comes to the city choosing to, at this point, the only thing that we have is to terminate the contract. That we have not gone through that yet, but we have gotten very close on a couple of properties, providing them a notice. If you don't do X within a certain number of days, we will start to bring you before public meetings to remove you from or to terminate the contract or whatever.
Yeah, so we have options as Matthew noted. You can't straight up cancel the contract, and then you can enter into a notice of non-renewal. The notice of non-renewal would have a 10-year phase out period. These things would have to come before this commission and then to council before any of those changes get made. As noted earlier, the maintenance plans, some of these date back 25 years. Some of them are very vague, somewhat general. These are some of the things we want to look at when we bring forward the program changes to the commission. That's been, we've noticed that, in the way of like painting and a lot of these things, the contracts are in perpetuity. They auto renewal every year. So unless we take a proactive, step, the contract will be there forever, essentially, meaning that the tax savings are there forever. But in looking at the program and longevity of the program, it's worth taking a look at really at a certain point, a property should be completely restored under this contract. And what's the life cycle from that point on, whether or not the contract should have a life cycle that maybe is more in line with the length of the maintenance plan rather than just in perpetuity after you've, expended the cost to maintain or restore a property. It's suffice to say the property's already lasted 100, 120 years. It should be good for another solid chunk of time there. So these are the types of changes that we're going to be bringing forward for consideration, and maybe some program language that allows some flexibility that if in the event that it's not actually needed to be repainted in 6 years, that obviously we wouldn't make you. But the way we approach it as staff is we try to, be somewhat flexible. As Matthew noted in the presentation, we have some properties that did not get inspected this year. That is technically in violation of their contract. However, rather than, take them into the proceedings of canceling their contract, we want to be somewhat flexible, allow for them to be, inspected the following year to ensure that they're complying with their contract before we move into those enforcement proceedings. So we try to be reasonable, but if at some point staff feels like there's a blatant disregard for the contract or a blatant breach of the contract, it's definitely something we'd be willing to bring forward to this commission.
I'm not your city attorney, but it's a contract.
Yeah.
I would love to give Matthew, after many reasonable attempts to contact the property owner and let him in not being able to inspect the property, give him some right to go into the property. I know that's a huge deal, but if it's a contract, and again, we go back to the incentivizing versus disincentivizing people to want in, but I would love that because it's from what I remember, and I don't know if the same properties, but last year you also had issues with a couple of properties that they were just not responsive and you couldn't look at.
So part of the report now in the in the summary table attachment one, there's a new column this year noting the most recent year in which it was inspected. So most of them 2025, a few of them 2024, and a few select. It is paper trail recorded as the last time being 2023, and we have reached out. We have records of reaching out.
Yeah.
So what we look for as staff is those consecutive years of no inspect, you know, obviously there's families, you know, life situations that happen that maybe,
Yeah, understandable.
but yeah, definitely we agree. I think where we would go, where we would recommend from the staff level is, you know, rather than just guaranteeing entry onto the property, we would just go into the cancellation process. If you're unwilling to let staff, you know, inspect the property, that's clear violation of the
After,
contract.
yeah.
We would, rather than try to say, well, we're just going to go inspect anyways, we would probably just move to cancel the contract at that
That would
point.
probably be safer for Matthew, actually.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Especially with big
I was gonna say-
costs on property.
Yeah.
So I get the impression that a lot of these contracts were just guesses as people filled in anyway. I was wondering if there is any place where all these plaques are written that we could maybe online, or so when we see a property walking around and it doesn't have a plaque, or it does have a plaque, or you're driving by, that you could access the plaques.
So like a database of the plaques that pertain. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't believe we have anything like that at this time, other than just the table of the properties themselves. But
I'm thinking the next cycle, I usually take a photo of the plaque. The next cycle, I could just save that
something,
particular
'cause,
photo.
There are times I'm like, oh, we reviewed that property, but I can't remember what it is, and to get out and actually, you know, peer through the foliage to wherever the plaque is. I do appreciate in the report the color photos that went with each, because
Thank you.
I don't remember the addresses, but I remember the houses.
Yeah.
And that was nice. So thank you.
So we have a,
Oh, just to respond to you, I do think some of the neighborhoods have, they have their own websites or links through the cities. And I know for the Old Town, they do have the historic, or many of the historic properties mapped, and there's and it's not pictures of the plaque, but the language of it or something similar is there. But not every house and not every neighborhood.
question.
Just wanted to support, one, I think the idea of a contract is that the city needs to be perceived as following the contract, because if you make exceptions in one, then others will note that and then say, well, this was allowed, why am I not allowed this? You know, and it makes it more complicated for the city. And so I just wanted to support the idea that there is a structure to it that people can understand and follow.
Yes,
And exceptions make it confusing for everybody.
absolutely. And part of the thinking that went into the restorative work versus maintaining work is something like a driveway replacement is not historic restoration. That is general maintenance of the property. So if you're saying that you're going to spend $20,000 to replace it in 10 years and you don't, yes, that's out of line with the contract. But if we took it before HPC, would you find that it damaged the historic integrity of the property? I suppose staff made that decision of probably not. But there has been some I'm not really sure what the word is, some judicious decisions about things that are intended to be historic restoration. And it's usually in these contracts for the maintenance schedule, in the first 2 or 3 years, there's things that they were supposed to do to restore the property. And then if you're talking about tree trimming later on, that's maintenance. So all that to say, as part of these ordinance updates, trying to put in as part of the initial contract, list the things that have to be done to make it historic and differentiate those from long-term maintenance.
That's a good idea. I think too, sometimes there are unforeseen consequences of actions where at one point all of it looks very logical and easy, and then somebody has health issue or aging issue and is dealing with some of these things, and you have to guide them back into it in some way. I'm sure there are personal situations that make it difficult, and I just want to kind of express sympathy for you in that, and also you're doing a good job, so keep it up. We really appreciate the work you've done.
William?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. One, does the homeowner have to document their actual expenses in any of this?
Depends on the contract. Most of them, no.
Okay, so we really have no idea how close to reality the contract.
Well, that's why we do the annual inspection. So if someone says they replaced their roof, if we're inspecting annually, it should be readily noticeable if that's a new roof or if it's a 20-year-old roof. But that's some of the program changes that we want to bring forward. There's not really a program requirement for them to document with receipts. There's not, that's kind of stuff that, we think in the future, maintenance plans should probably be created in conjunction, like consultation with a contractor to have realistic, rather than just a homeowner estimating what it's going to cost to repair a foundation. They should be getting consultation with a professional as to what that's going to cost. And then we can tie that back to the inspection side of the actual restorative work and require receipts or some kind of documentation that work was completed and what year and when it was completed and by whom. And then, so all that's the kind of stuff that we really want to bring back and tighten up the program to ensure that.
Yeah, perfect. And then the other question was, when somebody has not completed an item on their list, is there any effort to capture the reasoning for that?
Reasoning, excuses, didn't feel like it, or we had a pipe leak in our basement, and so we allocated funds to repairing that this year. Ultimately, it's marked as no, it wasn't done. But in terms of us going out as staff and enforcing on it, that's a little bit more to our discretion.
They usually do have a story for Matthew as to why I didn't have.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more in terms of identifying persistent problems, for example.
So that's one thing that I've been excited about. This is the third time around. The types of photos that are taken now, I make sure I get all four sides of the structure. So if we come back a future year and there's a new window there, or there was one case where I'd taken photos of the windows. They redid the siding of the house. The windows were in new locations, new positions, and literally went in with a dotted line on Microsoft Word and was like, it used to be level across here. They are shifted now. This needs to be righted through either putting it back to what it was or going through the historic permit process. So I think the photos in particular have been the most valuable part of this. And after each inspection, whatever photos are taken are uploaded at least to our server of the property address, photo inspection 2025, and then whatever photos were taken.
All right. Any other? Yes.
On just one, forgive me if I missed this, Matthew, but how many inspections can they miss? I'm concerned about the 3 houses that haven't had inspections the last 2 years. And I know on the Finch house, that current owner has been attending the Old Town meetings. I can't remember her story. I think it's an inheritance. And I don't know I can't recall other details, but I was just wondering how many inspections can they miss?
So since we don't have it codified right now, those type of decisions would probably factor into when we enter into cancellation.
Okay.
And I will say, at least one of them that I saw them the first round, like they were friendly and nice, and I don't even remember how we got a hold of them last time, but we tried multiple different ways this time and it didn't come through.
Yeah, as Matthew said, there's not a hard number as far as inspections. We've been, tried to be a little bit flexible as properties maybe change hands or if there's just something going on. But I think we've definitely identified, after at least 3 missed inspections, it's something we're concerned enough that we would bring back to the commission and entertain whether or not the commission wanted us to move forward with cancellation or a notice of non-renewal.
Thank you.
I have just one question. One more question. When these properties change hands, I assume that the Mills Act contract goes along with the deed and is recorded like a lien or
Mhm.
something else that's attached to the property.
As-
So we would assume that,
Title company.
is
Probably.
that who, I mean,
It would show up in a title report. So that's typically how you would be aware of it. Now,
just
whether or
the
not
owner,
you-
not the contract?
it would give you the recorded number for the contract. It depends on probably how extensive of the title report you get, if you get a copy of every recorded document or if it just references the recorded document. But that's, again, as structured in the program today, it runs with the land.
Mhm.
When we bring forward changes to the program, that's something this commission can take a look at and whether or not they want it to automatically transfer with a new owner or if they want the contract to cancel upon transfer of ownership. These are the types of things that we'll be bringing forward for discussion because again, it's kind of one of those things that someone may purchase a property, never even realize they're under a contract, and then never do anything to the property and then sell the
They don't-
property
And then
5 years
Shows
later.
up, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a thing. I mean, it's been a long time since we bought our house, but we got a homeowners association, what we were supposed to do,
Mhm.
a whole document.
Look, I might be different, but I read everything.
Well, you're a
So,
lawyer, yeah.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was also, I mean, a big purchase,
Yeah.
right? So the fact that people say, oh, I wasn't aware, I don't know.
Yeah, my father told me to read everything signed.
Especially if it runs with the land, which I would love to keep, by the way. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like the airplane, what do you call it? The
Navigation easement.
Well, from your house, you can see if you're in a airplane
Oh,
path
yeah.
or something. That's one of these things that you should know, Yes.
I do think that it's all a matter of choice from the very beginning. Whether you decide to go for a Mills Act, you're looking for the advantage of it
Mhm.
so that the money you save can be put toward doing these jobs. You're going to have to maintain your property somehow. Most of us
Mhm.
need to do that. And so having this support is a wonderful thing. And it benefits the city to have maintained historic
Mhm.
property. So that's been the contract. And if through time you change your mind or you buy a property, well, and then in that case, many of the people that sell properties with Mills Act contracts see it as an advantage to the new homeowner. And so it's part of the, discussion. They say, and not only do you get a lovely property, but you also get
Tax
one
break.
with a Mills Act. So I really think the idea that you're unaware is not an acceptable, concept. I think we have to say that your choice to buy a property with Mills Act, your choice to engage in a Mills Act property. The thing that I have a little sympathy for, but I think it's just life, is that in time, people
Mhm.
become older
Mhm.
and their memories change and maybe they will need to sell the property. Or maybe, things will happen. Life moves on and properties do too in time. Rarely would it be the original people that built these houses are living in them now because you have to have age and change of property owner over time. And so we just have to look at it like a contract. I don't know any other way that the city can do it. And I think that's the kind of thing we need to remind the current owners of those properties is that it is a contract. There's a way out of the contract, but if you're in the contract and getting the advantage of it, then you need to deal with the responsibilities of it. And a big one is communication with the city too. When you reach out to them, there should be some communication. And so Kathy's question, how long do we wait if we don't communicate, is a good one. You know, and I just appreciate, again, you know, the work you're doing. It's so much more than we've had before. So we're really walking, you know, a path toward this little by little, and I thank you for it.
All right. I think we have to open it up for public comments. All right. So I don't see anybody in chambers. Anybody online, Spencer?
There are still no attendees online.
Thank you. Any final comments for staff, Matthew, Levi, anybody? All right. Do you need a motion from us to receive it, or we're good?
We don't. It's
Okay.
just to receive the presentation.
Well, thank you very, very much. I agree with all the comments. Very informative. I thought it was going to be a short meeting, but I'm glad it wasn't, because we got to learn a lot more about what you do and all the good work that you've been doing. And I'm glad you're safe. And it's tricky when you mess with, or they think you're messing with people's property. So,
The scariest about it sometimes is the dogs.
oh, that's
Got it.
right. I forgot about the dogs. All right. Well, if nothing else on this item, we'll move to planning update.
Sure. So just quickly, as noted in the report, as of now, we don't have any items tentatively scheduled for our December 11th meeting. However, if that changes, we'll certainly let this group know. And then, of course, we have our upcoming historical and cultural events noted on there as well, including the Cannery Row Days that extends into December 1st. And then, of course, the Robert Louis Stevenson's unbirthday celebration, November 15th, if you're interested in that. And then the traditional tree lighting, of course, on December 5th here in Colton Hall on.
I know some of the commissioners like to share events. Anybody have any events for us? No, not
We
this
do
time.
look forward to the nice city gathering that
Absolutely.
where
Oh,
we
that's
get
right.
to enjoy just visiting with people and.
Which is December 3rd?
That's correct. It'll be December 3rd this year if you haven't received your invite already.
All right. Yes.
Well, Christmas in the Adobes.
Oh,
is the
wow.
12th, 13th of December. And since you mentioned the lighthouse in Point Sur all the time, I'm going to mention an event at Carmel. Is that okay? Carmel Heritage is having our 23rd Inns Tour, Inns of Distinction Tour, December 7th. Guess who's the tour chair? And I have 6 inns this year. So we haven't had 6 inns for many years. And the San Francisco Chronicle is doing a special feature in their holiday section this Sunday, the 16th. And I'm looking forward to this because we get lots of people from the Bay Area attending. And we have some historic inns this time too. The Cotswold Lincoln Green Inn is having their centennial this year, which is old for Carmel. And the Pine Inn, first hotel in Carmel. And so we have a good mix. I'm very excited about it. So if any of you are available Sunday after, they light the tree in Carmel Friday night, December 5th. And then we always used to before COVID and starting again now, culminate with the Inns Tour on Sunday. So it's a community thing for people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we adjourn at 5 o'clock.